and welcome to the Remote Producer Show. Today we are lining up a special episode where we're going to go into how businesses can leverage live streaming and media strategies. Stick around all the way to the end. Jump in the chat real quick if you're hanging with us today. We are going to get started here. Keep this super concise, but would love to know who's in the mix. So if you are on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, any of the above, jump in the comments and let us know you're here. But without further ado, we actually are going to go ahead and get started on today's episode of B2B Livestream Content Strategy. So this is going to be applicable for if you're running a business yourself or on behalf of a company or brand, you need to earn a business. So with that being said, that's going to be what we're talking about today. And let me know your specific situation, or if you have any questions throughout today's journey, drop them in the chat and I will gladly get to all of them and share it. So welcome to the party, Robert. Welcome, Faith. I see you rocking and rolling here. We're already over here already out of the music intro, but glad it's appreciated. And let's go ahead and get started. And today, essentially what we're going to be talking about is these three things and how you can utilize them to your advantage. I'm going to be sharing the trends and opportunities of today's digital era, and how you can tap into that on behalf of your business or your brand. Part two, we'll go into how you can build a media machine that produces content to take advantage of the prior said trends and opportunities. And then the last piece here is a huge piece that I think a lot of brands and companies are missing. And this is how to develop brand champions that will literally fight for your brand and be the face of your brand and of your media adventures. So keep that in mind. And without further ado, let's jump into the trends and opportunities available in the digital era. So the premise is pretty simple here. There is an absolute war for attention right now on the digital landscape between Facebook and Google and YouTube and Microsoft and all of these other companies that are using these platforms, as well as just the internet in general. We need attention for all of that to thrive. And content is a way to cultivate and garner and distribute that attention in a meaningful way. So the goal from your end is to A, just recognize this trend in the first place. And then part B is it is your job to use owned media as the bridge to reach your audience. Media is the bridge to reach your audience. For those of you linguistics out there, you may have connected the dots between media and medium. That is the channel that you are relating to people on an individual level. So if you can have that high level perspective of this very competitive war out here for attention, and it's your job to earn more of that attention in a useful way. So these are the lanes or the avenues that I want you to keep top of mind for your media and content strategy. Number one, guest-based lead generation. This is a brilliant way for you to build a show or a media asset and get ROI out of it without needing a gazillion downloads and 1 million followers, all of those extremely massive numbers that we often compare ourselves to. You can actually have a successful, viable show using it as a lead generation strategy by bringing guests to the show that would be viable clients for your business or company. So keep that top of mind as a direct strategy to develop your show, your podcast, your stream. It can be any of the above. But in this case, the guest is your target client, and you bring them to the show as a relationship building asset. Hello to Juana. Hello, Teresa. Hello, Majida. Robert, everybody else hanging. Jump in the chat if you're hanging with us today or just lurking on YouTube. Would love to see who's here. But let's keep it rolling now. Number 2, humanized business development. A lot of brands, a lot of companies have lost their human element with so much of this corporate branding, technology, automation, SaaS, everything. There we go. I see a lot of people hopping in here. Denise, Lagia, welcome to the party, you guys. So what we're talking about now is number 2, humanized business development, where a lot of companies have lost touch. They automate everything. Their CRMs are all automated workflows. What is really valuable right now is seeing the face behind the company, seeing who is the founder, who are the key stakeholders, who are the people that make those decisions and make that company thrive. People want to see the actual human behind the brand. And this is a massive opportunity for people to step into whether it's a show or a podcast or a live stream and humanize the brand or the company that they are representing. Super powerful to have that human relationship. Even if underneath the business underlying is B2B, you still need to share the humans and the people behind that brand. So thank you guys all for joining. I see a bunch of new people here loading up. Let's keep it rolling here. Number 3, syndicated content. This is another massive opportunity where the media and technology world is kind of coming full circle. What you're going to see here in the next decade or so is we're going to go all the way back around to like network television model. Right now we have very splintered channels from splintered platforms and network television. There's a gazillion different channels and apps and everything. We're going to see and what you can take advantage of is how you can build your own network of syndicated content. So whether that's business content or confidence and if you're like a lifestyle coach, whatever your niche is, you can actually obtain the rights to your own shows, either that you're developing, or obtain the rights to other shows that fit your theme and use syndicated content as a media strategy. So imagine if your brand or your business had a network of shows or clips or relevant media assets that were running on your channel. This is a huge opportunity. Do not sleep on it. And then the last one here that a lot of people are starting to catch on to is multi-platform distribution. Multi-platform distribution where you can create once, like we are doing right now, and that content can land in so many places. Like right now we are on LinkedIn, TikTok, or we're not on TikTok yet. That's where I'm heading next. LinkedIn, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and there's like a gazillion other streaming platforms popping up. You need to be taking advantage of this. And I don't want you to just spray everywhere and feel like you just need to be everywhere, but you should be on multiple channels. So find which channels your audience is hanging out at and find creative ways to land there. That's the high level strategy that I want you guys to keep in mind for the trends and opportunities that your business can take advantage of. So that was part 1. Let's jump into part number 2, which is how does this all come to life? How does this actually happen? And essentially, it's all about content. the final piece of all of this, the fuel that makes this strategy come to life, is content. So what your job is as a producer or on behalf of your company, it is to essentially build a high efficiency system to deliver that content to your audience, your target audience, and to do it consistently. Consistently is the keystone here. If you do just the first half, that's great. That's a solid start, but you have to be able to sustain it and stick with it to understand what's really, really going to work in the long run. So I see a few quick questions sneaking in here. Jamie, welcome to the party. Andy has a quick question. What is your upload bandwidth? I think through Restream Studio, we're usually around like 3 to 4 megabytes per second. I might be at like 3.5 or 4 point something. But that's where I'm at the moment. But that's into the technical details of the adventure. Thank you, Andy. But let's go ahead and continue here with your high-level theory of how this actually needs to come to life. And essentially, you need to develop internal systems or outsourced to a team that you trust, an ongoing media machine that can deliver content consistently. Again, that key piece is the consistency, because without that element, you're going to try for a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, get burnt out, and then suddenly you're no longer interested in streaming or content anymore. So that sustainability and consistency is a key piece. But don't worry, there is a solution at hand for all of y'all. And these are the pieces that I need you to consider when you're building a what I call a media machine. The first piece of all of this, primary show. You need some type of primary media asset that is essentially your pillar for the rest of the content and the branding that comes through here. So think of a podcast or a live stream, like talk show type of thing, that's your main asset. This is what you're known for in general. It represents your brand. It represents your business very well. That's going to be a key piece that you need that establishes authority. For some reason, humans are weird. I don't get why, but if you have a professionally branded show and a logo and the name and the intro and the outro and all of that, your authority attached to that message is amplified. Even if you said the exact same thing in the exact same way, just on a single piece of content, a one-off piece of content, it somehow resonates better when you're in a professional show and in a professionally organized production. Now, that's a key piece that you want to develop that fits with your brand. And then part 2 here that Robert just mentioned, the micro content that now can be sourced from this primary show. So this isn't a separate weird thing that you have to do as an original. I have to post on LinkedIn today, go script a video and write it and record it and edit it and then publish it. You don't have to do that. You can use your show, that primary pillar we were talking about, as the source footage to develop micro content. And the key here is getting extremely mindful of where this content is landing. Be extremely mindful of where your micro content is landing. And it's your job or your editor's job to create a clip or a piece of content that fits in that environment naturally. It would be very weird to put like a 10 or 20 minute video on LinkedIn. I don't even think you like technically can, but that's something that you would do in YouTube. The same way that TikTok requires very, very short form content, high value density, information density type of content. that's what you need to cater to for each platform. So it is super efficient if you can connect the dots between these two, but you need a clear strategy to make it work. So welcome, Paul and Gabe and Jamie and everybody else jumping in here. Majida, thank you guys so much. Please do jump in the comments and share any questions you have. We are going to pin questions and jump into a Q&A at the end. So let's keep it rolling. Another piece of the media machine that we are talking about is events and experiences. So your primary shows, your brand building asset. Your micro content is your awareness-based asset that's getting lots of attention and eyeballs. Events and experiences are your emotional aspect. You want to capture people's emotions in this process too. And one of the best ways you can do that is with events and experiences. So once upon a time, you could actually meet people in real world and have like conferences and events in that context. Don't know when we're allowed to do that again. It's kind of reopening, but what you can do now is think of how you can develop digital events and experiences. If you can provide that level of emotional connection and community in a digital environment, people will not only thank you for it, they're going to keep coming back for more and more and more and more of that. So this is an amazing thing to essentially combine everything that you're doing so that you're covering authority, awareness, and emotion in a really powerful way that draws people to your brand in a magnetic way. So very, very similar to what we were just talking about with events and experiences, you have to be thinking about this community element. And thank you to Tyler. I see you jumping in here. I will get to that in a quick second. We're going to jump to questions here at the end. But in relation to the events and experiences, a very similar thing you need to have in your strategy is how can we cultivate community. It's very easy to set up a show that's a one-way street that says, here's my message, here's my voice, boom, enjoy, and it's out there with the world. But what you'll see is a lot of that type of stuff doesn't get a lot of long-term traction or loyalty. What you need to be doing is finding like ride or die type of fans that love you so much, they're sharing it on your behalf. They want to spread the message with the world, or they are a part of the journey. They're a part of the journey. So you can think of these all in a creative way. So have events, have little polls and stuff people can choose and be a part of the experience. So that's this last piece that I want you to consider here is how can you cultivate community and how can you share the journey? It just feels so much more special if you were sharing for 6 weeks, like, hey guys, got my studio set up, just now figuring out my mic, and then a few weeks later you got it set up and you're showing the progress, and then after the 6 weeks you're there for launch, you have your first episode, you have your first show out there. Everybody that's been a part of that experience now has a different level of connection with you and with the show and with the media. So think of how you can cultivate community and share the journey with your audience. So let's keep it rolling here now. We just finished part 2 into part 3. Everybody that's in here, thank you guys so much for jumping in the show. Please do hop in the comments. Let me know you're here. Would love to see who's in the mix. Hello, Charlene. I see Majita's still hanging with us. Thank you guys so much. Let's keep it rolling into part 3, which is building brand champions. Let me know if you've heard of the phrase brand champions or something similar ever before. I want to know if this is new to you guys or if some of you guys are maybe familiar with it. And essentially, here's what we need to think about. How this kind of attaches to the humanized element that we were mentioning earlier. how can you strategically invest in real people to be the hero of your brand? That's the goal that you need to be answering either as a business owner, maybe you're like in charge of marketing or branding or business development. But if you want media and live streaming in general to work for you, you need to invest in real people, real actual humans that can represent your brand. And the high level strategy is pretty simple. It's for you to seek alignment with somebody that represents your message and your mission in a useful and creative way. So this is literally applicable to any industry. The job is to essentially find who can represent your business and your brand in a human way. And the specific strategies that you can use to do that, I've got 3 of them here for you. If for whatever reason you find something that works outside of this palette, brilliant. But here are 3 options that I suggest and recommend to build brand champions that are essentially the spokesperson or the representative. I see people said brand ambassadors, kind of a similar term, except this is an even heavier investment than like a group of brand ambassadors. You need an internal asset, an individual that you're building as a company asset, essentially. And the first recommendation that works the best, if feasible, is using founders and executives. If you have founders and executives of a company that represent that same mission and message, and they're pretty good on camera and can kind of do this whole media thing, that's a perfect sweet spot to be in, because they have a direct connection to the brand, to that bigger business goal. But it's very obvious for us as people to understand and comprehend, okay, this is the guy behind it. He's literally the founder of the company. So that's the first one that I would suggest you prioritize and look for. But I realize not always that's not always going to be a compatible strategy. There are many founders and executives that do not belong on camera or on stream. And if that's you, that's fine. There are other opportunities and lanes to pursue. So let's jump into number 2 regarding brand champions. And that is finding and using some type of superstar employee. This is somebody that they may not be a founder that was sitting at the table from day one, but they are a brilliant representative of the company. So this could be somebody in the sales and biz dev department, somebody in marketing, content, social media, anybody in that realm that can actually exemplify and build those relationships in a humanized way. Again, this is the human element. That's what we keep talking about here. The recurring theme is getting away from the dry B2B business stuff and plugging a real human into that equation that people can resonate with in a effective way. So I'm seeing a lot of agreement here. Glad to see all of that. Drop your questions, or just if you're on board, go ahead and give a thumbs up and a yes if you're hanging out with us today. But Faith is loving it. Tyler's still hanging, rocking and rolling. Let me get to this last one, Tyler, and then we'll jump to your guys' questions. As always, feel free to share your questions in the chat. We're going to jump to a Q&A in a couple minutes because we're almost done. But let's go to number 3, the third type of brand champion that you can build. And this is when you have an actual client or a living case study that can produce media on your behalf. This is a bit of a dream state. It's amazing. And I realize not all companies are going to have this, but if you do have a business or an individual that has gone through your service or your product, and they've experienced the transformation that you're portraying with your product, this is going to be a perfect, it's basically a walking, living testimonial of your brand and of your product in a way. So if you can find a way to capture that individual's story and reshape it and reshape them into an asset of your brand and of your company. Maybe they're the host of the show and they can resonate with your dream client, your target client here. This is who, again, we're trying to reach ultimately is your dream client, your target client. So if they are seeing a person that's just like them, that went through the same problems as them, hired a service and got the same resolution that they want. It's going to be very, very vividly clear on the audience side or anybody that's joining or absorbing that media of how valuable you are as a brand or as a company. So that is the third category of those. And Tyler had a quick question here that I'll get to since it's relevant to this exact setup. So Tyler, if you are an individual owner operator, this first category is going to be the one we want to operate in. The brand champion of your own adventure. And we briefly just mentioned earlier about how you can share the journey. This is by far the most effective strategy I've seen so far. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn that have been sharing their journey day after day. And it's a brilliant way for an individual solopreneur to create content, have a little bit of like therapy of like, it's insane running a company on your own. I get it, Tyler. But you can share that with the world and it creates that community vibe. So it's not a super, super professionally, not every piece of content has to be perfect, but those blemishes and those raw moments that you share with an audience are going to be powerful. So that would be my recommendation, Tyler, is going with the founder executive approach and then share pieces of your journey, whatever you're doing, whatever you're struggling with that week or that month. Other people are going to resonate with that in a creative way. And even your clients, target clients might actually see that and resonate with you as an individual and then choose to work with you. And now you're top of mind for all of that. So, let's recap here real quick because that was a lot, but we are about to hit the 30-minute mark. But for those of you joining late, here is the recap for how businesses and brands can leverage media and live streaming to win in today's digital era. The first thing we talked about is the war for attention. The digital economy is a war for attention in so many ways, in so many platforms. It is your job to use media and content to win that war for your brand or your business. Now, the tool you will need to compete in that war is some type of media machine, a system that delegates high-level primary authority-building content, awareness, and like broad-level reach type of content, and then community building, emotional, like pull this person into the depths of your soul, that type of brand building and loyalty with events and experiences. If you can combine all of those, you'll be in a good spot. And then the last piece we just mentioned is about humanizing your brand or business. It is your job, either as a business owner or as VP of marketing or whatever your role is, it is your job to build champions on behalf of your brand. So invest in high value people that represent your story, your message, and your mission, and you will see big wins. Boom. I hope you guys have been paying attention, taking notes. We are going to jump into the Q&A. I see Gabe is coming in hot right out the gates. Let's go ahead and let's turn up the music, turn in the little after party here. Thank you guys for joining the official part of the show. We are now jumping into the Q&A. We got some pinned comments here I'm going to jump to. And if you have any questions specific to your brand, your business, your life, jump in the chat right now. Share anything you want to ask. If I can get to it, I'll hop in it. Or if anybody in the chat here, if you can support as well, would love to see who is in the mix. So let's jump into these questions. The first one here from Gabe. What programs or services would you recommend for the purposes of developing micro content after your live is complete? Gabe, cracking open the repurposing train. My recommendations, there is a gazillion ways to skin this cat, supposedly, but my favorite way is having a post-production manager that basically can understand and operate these three tools. Adobe Premiere, a big one. It's basically the biggest professional video editing software. And then we use Rev for captions and subtitles. That's a big win for getting all of your content to be much more accessible. It's pretty much become industry standard to have things captioned and subtitled. And then the third one, what was it going to be? Oh, music. I use Stream Beats and a few other record labels and Juna Beats as well, that basically have streamer friendly audio and music that you can use for all of your micro content that really sets the tone. So that's what you'll see from today's episode, actually. So we'll actually turn this question is going to be a clip and everything, but it makes it so much more helpful to have captions, professionally produced videos in templates in Premiere, and then the last piece, just that really just puts the icing on the cake, is well selected music. Will take your micro content just to a whole nother level. Great question, Gabe. Thank you for the pinned messages. Let's get through. Robert Berry asked, you think the network model of syndication is coming back? Yes, but in a new version. I think what we're seeing here, look at what Netflix is doing. They are not only buying all the content they possibly can, they're now producing like blockbuster multi-million-dollar movies. So super strong signal there. The Salesforce company is now starting a streaming network. So I think we're going to see a lot of like business-based shows, business education, business entertainment, all in that streaming, utilizing that streaming context, but with niche-based channels and platforms. So that is the direction I think it's heading. I'm actually going to start testing this next year of getting the rights to several LinkedIn streamers and then circulating their shows the same way other syndicated networks work. So I do anticipate it is coming back. Technology does seem to work in cycles, but instead of it being Comedy Central running that channel, it's going to be an actual comedian. It's going to be Kevin Hart running that channel, or whatever the next up and coming comedian is. So decentralized syndication is where I see things heading. Now, another one from Denise is asking, can you have two, personal and professional? Denise, if you're still hanging with us, would love clarification on this. But if this is in the context of building your show or building your asset, I actually do recommend personal and professional. Just as we were talking about education and entertainment, for a long while, I tried to combine those. I tried doing edutainment shows that essentially were education and entertainment combined. It was kind of personal, kind of professional. But what has worked for me, Denise, is actually completely siloing both of those worlds. I have a lane of completely personal entertainment streams on Friday, and then super professional and education streams on Thursday. So that's what you're in right now, is the professional education one. So that would be my recommendation, is to give it clear lanes. And if you can double dip, definitely recommend it. All right, Tyler is asking a brilliant question from earlier. Hey Travis, hope this isn't something you've already covered. Outside of your standard social media outreach, what would be a good way to find new clients for my video and photo services? Tyler, back in action again. Tyler, a brilliant way that you can produce content that is basically a bottomless pit is basically case study situations. So if you wanted to unpack what you did in the process of this video project or this photo project, share the journey and then share the final product of what happened from that journey. It kind of gives a case study, like testimonial type of vibe, but if there's a real story underneath, it makes it far more attractive to just a general audience that would want to listen to it. So that would be my recommendation. Connect a specific project or client to a story, create a piece of content out of that story, share it with the world. Boom. Bada boom, bada bing. Living testimonial with a little bit of storytelling behind it. So here we go. Once again, looking at all these questions here, feel free to jump in the chat. We are in the we're well into the after party here. I'm gonna go a whole season. This show was supposed to be 30 minutes and literally no episode was ever 30 minutes. But another great question here. Do you think it's a good idea to mix different kinds of content when we are thinking about being entrepreneurs? In short, yes. I think you definitely need a mix of content. The getting this perfect here is the ratio of that content. So what you can think about here is think of a content recipe or a content formula, and you want everybody's distribution is going to be different, but say you wanted 50% like education and authority on live streaming. That's half of my content, and then maybe 25% on personal development and confidence and issues like that, and then like 25% Lord of the Rings and dogs and hockey, like just off the wall personal interest, no professional relatability to it. You could basically set up a ratio of that. And now obviously you wouldn't want to play with that ratio so that it's 80% dogs and Lord of the Rings, but you can play with that ratio and see what works for you as a content recipe to basically say 50% of this, 30% of this, 20% of this, and then it gives you a formula to stick with for your content, while also not just saying the same things over and over and over. So I do think it is a good idea. You just have to be strategic about how exactly you're mixing that content and in what ratio. Great question. Great question. Here we go with another one. Majida is asking, dual camera versus Restream or any other service, which has the easiest dual view options? So Majida, this is gonna be more of your studio and gear setup and the software you own rather than the software tool to go live. So what you're gonna need is, first off, just 2 cameras that can connect to a switcher or a mixer of some sort. And then it's on you to control through the switcher which cameras are on or activated in that context. So not directly controlled by Restream, but if you did have dual camera, you could sync that up into Restream and then jump back and forth like between those cameras. I wonder if, all right, I'm gonna try doing it here. I might regret it. Let's see. All right, I'm scared, guys. I don't know if I can go back after. All right, we did it. Yay, dual cam. So yes, you could do it in Restream, but let me go back to normal one here. So definitely possible, but it requires the right gear in setup in your studio. So hopefully that helps, Majida. Dual camera from anywhere you need should be able to plug into Restream. Now, another one from Faith. Do you recommend a LinkedIn/YouTube combo? Yes, of course. I definitely do recommend it, with the caveat that live stream content doesn't get a ton of love over on YouTube. They definitely prioritize those like 10 to 20 minute type of videos, very high production value, well edited type of stuff seems to do better. But for me, it's been brilliant. I see we've got some switching the songs here. But basically we're gonna wrap up anyways. But Faith, I do recommend the LinkedIn YouTube combo. The benefit of YouTube is you can have full HD streaming in like super nice quality, 1080p and even up to 4K quality. So YouTube does have the clear win in that category, because LinkedIn downscales all resolutions to 720p. For those of you that don't know what that means, basically there's tiers of quality of video, and a while ago we jumped to 720p, then we went to 1080, you probably have heard of, and now we've reached like 4K crazy like level of streaming quality. YouTube lets you utilize all of that. LinkedIn does not. So that's the combo. I do hit both all the time, and would recommend it, but there are caveats for what does better on YouTube versus what does better on LinkedIn, and etc. So thank you to everybody joining. We're here in the after party, just answering some Q&A stuff. Last one here, I think the last one from Charlene. Would mixing short and long streams be ideal to change things up for viewers, or should we stick to one form or time limit? Brilliant question, Charlene. I personally am a fan of mixing it up. I have seen like 5 and 10 minute live streams do really well. And then there's been other times we've had like 2, 3, 4 hour streams that, although I wouldn't recommend it consistently, it's just super special experience in some cases. So I would say yes, but to do it strategically, Charlene. So maybe rather than don't have the same show and the same title, and then one show's 5 minutes and then the next one's 5 hours. Like maybe don't set up like that. But if you had different shows and different setups where one is just a 5-minute walkthrough, and then the other one is a complete 60-minute full hour like education, that would be a brilliant combo to mix things up. And then the beauty of the shorter ones is if you're really tight with the production and the editing and this and that, you can actually just use the full clip. If it's a 10-20 minute stream, it will actually do better on YouTube or do well on those platforms, whereas the 60 or 90 minute one might not do as great. So I do think it is good to mix it up, as long as there's a reason and a strategy behind it, Charlene. All right, folks, let me check the messages one more time, but I think we're done here. Amazing. Thank you so much, Majida. You subbed. Thank you, Charlene, for the question. Thank you, Faith, Paul, everybody else that's been hanging out and lurking over on YouTube. I see you as well. I appreciate you as well. But this is technically the end of the line. Thank you guys so much for joining the remote producer show. We'll catch you next week for the season finale of this show. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'll see you next week.